Good morning, everybody, and welcome to my presentation for today. This call more or less replaces our monthly call that we skipped because we're busy working on things. So I have a few things we're going to talk about today. This call is to prepare you for changes that we are in the process of making to the New York Connect site. So we're going to talk about a few things today. The primary thing is that a new portal is being designed for New York Connects. This portal contains some new features that will impact taxonomy and how we add it to our records. Additionally, there are changes around how we display search results. So I want to give you sort of a peek into that and show you how your records are impacted by that. And then we're going to have a little chat about ILCs, and then I'll have a formal place to open it up for questions. But as usual, if you do have any questions, you can put it into the question box, and I'll pause and answer them as they come in. Okay, so on September 30th, we are launching a new New York Connects website. We've spent a lot of time with focus groups and done a lot of research on ways to improve it. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to show it to you yet. Our next call will when I can demonstrate the new features. So today we're going to talk about those features and sort of give you a sneak peek at how it changes how we deal with records in Care Director. Okay, so some of the new features are the following. For starters, users are going to be able to register an account on New York Connects and use that account to request information on services that they find in their search results. That information request will then show up in PeerPlace. Additionally, we continue our PeerPlace integration by allowing care plans that are in PeerPlace and have been approved for electronic delivery. Those same users can log in, register on the portal, and bring up those care plans in PeerPlace, or in New York Connects. We have a new website design that I personally think is gorgeous, and a new search tool. We're adding 2 new types of search that will help people find programs and services. We hope what is a little bit more efficiently. Okay, so with the new search, we go from a single way of searching. Today when we search, we are doing a keyword search, which is that text box that populates down with the term someone's searching for, and then they pick the county from a list. That changes a little bit in the sense that we can now search on cities, and the system does know the difference between cities and counties that have the same name, and we do display what those cities and we do to say, hey, this is the city, hey, this is the county. And then we also have location services. So much like when you go to a website and it knows where you are, we do have the ability of populating that information into the system. But the keyword search itself doesn't change very much. That functionality is very similar to how it works today. The 2 new searches are the following. The category search is essentially a way of paging through categories that are configurable, that allow us to say, okay, basic needs leads to food, or medical needs leads to hospital stays or other things. I'll demonstrate that a little bit more once I can show you the portal. And then a guided search. The guided search kind of works like questions and answers. If you need, say, food, but you also are a veteran and need Veterans Affairs, we give the ability to check off multiple things you need, and we return results based on the items they've entered in that guided search. So all of these searches function around the taxonomy. So, previously and historically, we've said, all right, when you're adding taxonomy to your programs, add what is ever closest to what the service does. And that's still the way that we're going to do it. However, we do use a function of taxonomy, of the hierarchy of this, that will allow that, to populate these records sort of by default. The taxonomy does have a hierarchy to it where basic needs leads to food, and food leads to food pantries, and then, you can even go down more levels from there. If we look at my screenshot here, food has specialty food providers, which has 23 records in it. From there, you can, go down into either kosher food or ready-to-eat food. We're using the hierarchy of this taxonomy to do some pretty interesting things that bring the search more in line with, something, folks would be used to. And I'll explain that here a little bit in a second. So here's an example, all right? So in the new category function, let's say somebody goes to basic needs and they get a list of what those needs are. There's more than one, but in this case, I'm showing us the one. So in this case, the basic need is they need food. In the page with the search results, we now have the ability to refine the results, to filter the results, much like you would on Amazon or an e-commerce site. The related categories we have here come from the hierarchy of the taxonomy. So, and then users can filter the results by those related items and also their location and distance and such. These are features that are currently on our advanced line page that we've streamlined into a single page. So what does this actually change about the records we deal with in Care Director? Well, for the most part, we don't actually have to change much. For keyword searches, this stuff already works. And in our testing, we found that majority of our records show up in the guided and category search without us having to do anything. However, if you want to make sure that your records do appear in those results, we do have to take into account the level of the taxonomy record we're adding. So what I've done to sort of hopefully make this a little bit easier is I've changed the view for taxonomy. Previously on this page we were only showing you like the title and a bunch of other stuff. I've streamlined it down to show us the name of the taxonomy record and what level it is. All right? So for the most part, if you add a level 1 taxonomy term, it will show up in the guided search. It just probably will not have a filter on it. Okay? If you're adding something that is a level 2 or 3 taxonomy record, it will show up as a filter in that category search. And that's the primary difference from how it works today. All right. So I'm going to show that real briefly. And most folks know how these pieces work, but I'll show it off. So the function works exactly the same as it does today. We have a provider record. That provider record has services that are offered to the public. And then we can open up those services and we add Ayres taxonomy to those services to define the keywords on them. The primary change on the care director side is that when we are in the taxonomy term and we click the lookup, this view now shows me the level of taxonomy that I'm adding. We can sort on that level by clicking the header and the column, and we can see here that we have level 1 taxonomies that are pretty broad. But as we go down into the different levels, we get into more finite detail. So when we are searching for taxonomy in Care Director, if I'm searching for a record type, I'll do, all right, so if I do a search on something, right, a level 3 taxonomy record will show up in the options to refine results. Option 4 might not, depending on how the pieces are configured. So the main suggestion I'm giving when we add taxonomy is still continue to add whatever you feel is closest to the record type. But if you happen to if you have a level 2 or 3 entry that makes sense, go ahead and add that to your record. That way, when someone uses the guided search, or sorry, the category search, the tier 2 and 3 taxonomies will show up as options for filtering. Now, I recognize that this is a little bit of an abstract concept, not being able to show you the portal. However, it is sort of the foundational idea that I hope will make sense once we show you how it works. Are there any questions before I continue? Okay. I am in the process, I do not have it finished yet, of building out a new dashboard for taxonomy. This new dashboard I hope to be able to demo when we have our next call. The purpose of that dashboard will be to show you both what categories and guided search topics your taxonomies are under. That's not something you have visibility to in Care Director currently. And then additionally, I'm going to present this tree view that will give you a sort of conceptual idea of how many records are in each taxonomy. So in a world where I know that I'm looking at healthcare, I can, you'll be able to click in here and say, okay, I have a healthcare service. What taxonomy should I add to this service to make it, useful? So in a world where we're using the category search, right, healthcare doesn't necessarily display for the user. For them, it's either a question. It's going to be either a question or a category topic that gives them a description, and then these items would be what shows up on the filtering, and then so would anything on these levels. The items sort of below that currently don't show as filtering options. If we do find in time that we need to add such functionality, we can. It's just right now, for starters, we're starting at the top 3 levels of the hierarchy to auto-generate what those filtering options are. So I'm still tweaking how that dashboard will look, but I will be finalizing it and making it available to everybody when we go live at the end of the month. All right, if there are no questions about taxonomy, I will move on to the next piece. Okay, so the next change in the portal that I'd like to talk about is how records display. Our search results currently today look like this. We have the service name up top, we have a link to the provider description and such, and then we have the address. And these records show as a listing of items on a web page. In the redesign, we have improved how this looks. This is how it currently looks. We are still currently tweaking it. However, if you notice on this result, we do now show the description. So the program or provider description or service description now shows on the search results page, meaning that when you're looking at a listing of results, we can, hopefully it gives the user a better idea of what they're looking for. We've also removed the provider hyperlink. In our testing, we found that users were getting confused as to what to actually click on when they are looking at a list of results. We're still showing the provider address, and we're also now indicating what they searched for and why something's coming up in our results. Doesn't make so much sense when I'm showing you a single result here, but in a world where you can search for both medical needs and veteran services, and we show you results based on both of those queries, explaining why something shows up in search results, is quite useful. What does this mean in Care Director? Well, in a world where you don't have a description on your services, your results aren't going to look like this. Your results are going to be much closer to what we currently have. So in order to make sure that the results we get back are applicable and valuable to the user searching for it, I'm strongly encouraging folks to take a look and see if their programs have descriptions or not. This is one of those things I've harped on for a little bit, but as we've now turned on this functionality and we're improving what's visible, making sure that our programs have descriptions that are understandable by users of the New York Connects website becomes much more important. I do have a way for you to find what programs don't have descriptions, and I will walk you through that right now. So, we are mostly familiar with the main area of Care Director. For most of us, when we come into the system for the first time, or we start in Care Director, we're loading up this dashboards area here. Now, the dashboard area has a place here where it says My Work Currently, where we can expand and look at other dashboards in the system. The program dashboard that will currently shows up in two places, both as a system dashboard and a dashboard I've shared with the group. If you select that dashboard from the list, we load up a list of all of the programs that are in your county. All right, so it'll take a second to load here. This list by default is the one that shows up. This shows you basically everything that's tucked underneath your providers in Care Director. Much like, however, I do have a view that will show us any programs that don't have descriptions. Much like we can change the dashboards by clicking on the little view selector here and picking it. If we come down here to where it says programs for my team and we select that, you'll see that there is a list of programs without descriptions. And this will now give me a list of any programs I have in the system that don't have descriptions. And in this case, I don't have any. For most, so, one of the things I will be asking you to do once this is in production and over the next couple months is to take a look at any programs that don't have descriptions and see if we can get that information into those records. That's going to be our first effort. After that, it's going to be stuff like phone numbers. Now that we've changed how the phone numbers look, making sure that we have contact information, some form of contact information for those providers, becomes more important. So, it is not necessarily a change to how things look in Care Director, but it is, moderately important if we want to make sure our results are usable. Any questions around that before I continue? Okay. All right. So I do have one other item I put on the agenda to bring up. And it's not necessarily related to the work we're doing, but it is involving the training that I've been doing. Is the independent living centers, the ILCs, now have access to Care Director and have been trained in how to use Care Director. So they now are starting to get access into the system to use the application. Previously, when we started, floating the ideas of the ILCs, I did ask if anybody wanted to approve changes made by the ILCs. I did have a few users take me up on that, and I've set up some rules around those records that I do kind of want to show you what it does in case anybody else is interested in having that happen. So, out of the box, if you've sat for training before or you've been using Care Director for a while, we're familiar with that the status of the record determines what happens to it. So, if a record is in approved status, it shows up in Care Director, it shows up on the New York Connect site, and it shows up in PeerPlace for the INA users to be able to offer it. Records that are in waiting for approval status, however, show up in Care Director, but they're not showing, they're designed not to show up in New York Connects or PeerPlace. This is often used when we first create a record, or we're needing to make edits. By currently, the majority of users don't have any restrictions on whether or not they can approve a record in the system. However, I do have the ability to make it so that when a ILC makes a change, or this doesn't have to be an ILC, it could be an intern or a new employee if you like, we do have a setting where we can say, all right, a change has happened to this record. It needs to then be approved by somebody else. Traditionally, that is the owner of the record. But I do have a tool set where I can say, all right, this specific user has updated a record, and we want to seek approval of those changes. We would then send you a message. You'd get an email saying a change was made, and you would be able to access the record, go into the audit history, and see what changes were made. In this case, I changed the business hours, and say, all right, I agree with those changes, and then approve the record. So I have built out that tool set. I have built out dashboards that would show you when users not in your office make changes to your records. So I'm just putting that out there in case I do have anybody that wants to take us up on that. Do let me know and I can configure that and send you a little sheet on how to use it. Okay. So those were the items for today's meeting. If you have any questions, put them into the question box, and I'll be happy to answer them. And it looks like I got one here, so let me see what that is. All right, the question is, can a report be built that shows us programs that do not have phone numbers? Yes, I can totally do that. The way phone numbers work in the system is kind of smart. So if I'm looking at a provider record, if we scroll down, there is a place for primary phone and fax number, all right? So if you have a provider that has a phone number here and that's all they have, this phone number will show up in New York Connects. If the service has a specific phone number, so if we go into the service and we open up the record, and we have a phone number in here in the program, these phone numbers show on the portal as well. So, we take whatever number is present and present it to users in New York Connects. I can definitely build you a view that'll show up in that dashboard for records without phone numbers, and I will put that on my agenda and get that written when I review the dashboards here in a little bit. So that's a good idea. I can do that. Thanks a lot, Mary. Any other questions? All right. Well, in light of that, and I will. Will the new portal be faster? Yes, it will. The performance of the portal is something that we've looked into, and we're continuing to investigate, and we have taken a handful of steps that will, should improve performance. It was on my agenda items when we were doing the work. So yes, I'm completely excited to show you the new portal. We've put a lot of effort and work into it, and we've definitely expanded what it can do. And I hopefully have made it more useful to the folks that are coming to the New York Connects website. And again, I look forward to showing you that in our next meeting. So we will have directions going out on the little bit of changes in how things interact. Once I get my dashboards designed for you all, I'll sort of base it around those, and we'll continue to work together to get our records clean and make it so that when we're presenting items in New York Connects, they show a value to folks. So I thank everybody for joining. If there are no other, yes, it does look. Yes, the question is this training being saved? Yes, this training is being saved. There will be a little bit of delay in the video because I need to subtitle it. However, we will be making these videos available as once we're done with that. Cool. Anything else? All right. So yes, I will let you guys go. And like I said, I look forward to our next meeting when I can show you the work we've put in. And it's exciting stuff. Look forward to it. Thank everybody for joining.